Hi, this is Kylie with Fem and Flow. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. This is part two of the archetypal architecture of creation. In part one, we talked about the primordial archetypes and got into a lot of great detail with that. I won't go into a big introductory here. I'm just going to flow right into part two. So let's get started. Now that we've explored the primordial archetypes, the first harmonic tone seeded by the Elohim from pure source frequency, it's time to look at how these archetypes evolve and localize as they descend through dimensional density. Because once a realm has been created, once the foundational architecture is in place, that's when cosmic archetypes begin to crystallize. These archetypes aren't primordial, they're domain specific, meaning they emerge as energetic signatures tied to the geometry, rhythm, and frequency of a given realm or reality system. In our Earth realm, some of the most recognizable examples are the planets, each radiating a distinct tone or intelligence, the zodiacs, energetic flavors that help anchor archetypal patterning into individual soul design. The elements, foundational forces like fire, water, earth, and air that shape not just matter, but personality, emotion, and rhythm. These cosmic archetypes are dimensional translators. They take high level frequencies like Sophia, Logos, or the Fool and give them form, season, and expression in a specific environment. So when we say someone is Venusian, or a Leo sun, or a fire type, we're not describing their essence, we're describing the language their essence is speaking through in this realm. These archetypes are still real, still ancient, still deeply meaningful, but they're encoded into the local story of the Earth grid. They help weave your soul's multidimensional architecture into your body, your voice, your birth chart, your elemental constitution. They are Earth's way of helping you remember yourself in context. In a moment, we'll explore the planetary intelligences, the zodiac mythos, the elemental expressions, and eventually the sacred archetypes of animals and plants. But first, let's anchor the difference. Primordial archetypes are universal tones seeded before realms existed, woven directly into the morphogenic field of all that is. Examples are Sophia, Logos, Union, Witness, Spiral Architect. And then cosmic archetypes are realm specific energetic patterns that help souls embody and translate their essence within a particular dimensional structure. Some examples here are Venus, Aries, Fire, Oak, Dog, Rose, Initiation. One is eternal architecture, and the other is dimensional poetry. But both matter, both guide, and both are speaking to you every time you breathe. So let's talk about planets, zodiacs, and elements, and these are cosmic archetypes in form. These are not just tools for astrology or ritual. They are cosmic organizing principles embedded into the architecture of this realm. These are cosmic archetypes, not primordial like Sophia or Logos, but still foundational within the structure of Earth's energetic design. They shape the language of time, embodiment, and initiation here. They're how the soul communicates through the body, through cycles, through nature. They're the geometry of spiritual experience and motion. Each one holds a frequency tone, a divine intelligence that patterns consciousness. So let's talk about planets as archetypes. The planets are not just floating bodies of matter. They are celestial mirrors, each radiating a distinct archetypal signature. For example, Venus is the divine feminine blueprint of harmony, magnetism, beauty, and sacred reciprocity. Mars embodies the divine masculine impulse of will, courage, desire, and initiation. Saturn is sacred structure, karmic refinement, and the alchemist of time. Jupiter expands. It's the cosmic teacher, abundance, wisdom, and spiral growth. Mercury is the messenger of mind, movement, and multidimensional communication. Even Pluto, often misunderstood, carries the archetype of alchemical death and rebirth, descent into the underworld for soul purification. But none of these planets operate alone, because anchoring them all is the sun and the moon. The sun is the radiant source code of individual essence, the I am, divine presence made visible. The moon is the reflector of emotion, memory, and rhythm. It governs tides, cycles, and the energetic blueprint of the feminine spiral. Together, they form the archetypal axis of conscious light and subconscious rhythm. Father sky and mother moon, solar truth and lunar knowing. Now let's talk about zodiacs as archetypal frequency wheel. The zodiac is not just a personality typing. It's a 12-point frequency map encoded into Earth's field. It mirrors the cycle of cosmic initiation through different archetypal lenses. Aries begins the spiral, raw fire, instinct, emergence. Libra brings the mirror, relational balance, justice, reflection. Scorpio dives deep, transformation, shadow alchemy, soul fusion. Pisces dissolves, return to source, mysticism, collective memory. Each zodiac holds keys, not as static traits, but as gates of initiation. They are archetypes you move through, spiral through, evolve through. This is one of the ways the soul undergoes cosmic initiation, by moving through the archetypal thresholds encoded in time, space, and form. And we'll talk about the archetype of initiation a little later. Other realms may have different zodiacal structures based on their unique geometries, but Earth's 12 were chosen for a reason, to guide beings through polarity, individuation, reunion, and reintegration. Now let's talk about elements as archetypes. So go even deeper beneath the signs and the planets are the elements. Earth is the archetype of structure, fertility, embodiment. Water is the archetype of emotion, intuition, and flow. Fire is the archetype of transformation, will, and divine spark. Air is the archetype of mind, breath, and expansion. Ether, the fifth element, is the archetype of spirit, source, and synthesis. These are the raw ingredients of existence, the elemental archetypes that shape everything from star systems to cells. These are not metaphors or myths. They are living frequency fields, anchored through your body, your breath, your bloodline, your being. Your bones carry earth, your breath carries air, your womb holds water, your passion moves fire, and your soul is ether remembering itself. This is the beauty of archetypes. They scale. They shape the cosmos and shape you. They are both macro and micro, story and spiral. And when you understand how planetary, zodiacal, and elemental archetypes move through you, you stop thinking of astrology as prediction, and you start living it as remembrance. Because you weren't just born under the stars, you were made of them. Now let's talk about the animals. Because animals aren't just companions, spirit messengers, or tokens in mythology. They are living archetypes. Each one holds a specific vibrational pattern woven directly into Earth's morphogenic field. They are frequency keepers, tone stabilizers, and pure expressions of source and form. The lion carries sovereignty and regal courage. The deer holds alertness, gentleness, and grace. The owl mirrors sight beyond illusion, wisdom in the dark. The whale sings memory, depth, and planetary resonance. The snake pulses with transmutation, shedding, and kundalini fire. These beings don't perform their archetypes, they are them. They don't get entangled in narrative, hierarchy, or identity. They move in alignment with their blueprints. They are uninterrupted fractals of source expression. And here's where it deepens even further. Animals aren't just archetypes in motion, they are souls. Each one is a fractal expression of an oversoul, choosing form, tone, and path through the lens of a particular species. When a soul chooses to incarnate as an animal, it enters a unique template. Number 1, the archetype of the species itself. Example, lion, dog, or whale. And then number 2, within that, it holds additional frequency layers, like its astrological blueprint, its elemental tones, and often a unique individualized archetypal stream. So here's my golden retriever, for example. She carries the canine archetype, loyalty, joy, emotional attunement. But within that, she also seems to embody a Leo sun tone, radiant, warm, and bold. The fire elements, playful, expressive, and magnetic. And a primordial archetype I mentioned earlier, the precious fool who plays for God. The joyful innocent who holds light so purely it disarms distortion without effort. And I'm going to talk more about this at the end because I love this archetype. I think it's so amazing. But these aren't labels, they're living tones, felt in the field long before they're understood in words. Some animals incarnate to hold a tone for your personal field. Some come to stabilize planetary resonance. Some are members of your Oversoul family, walking beside you in fur and bone as protectors, mirrors, or coherence anchors. And unlike humans, they're not trying to become anything. They simply are what they came to be. In that effortless embodiment, they radiate a kind of spiritual clarity that many humans are just beginning to remember. That's why being near animals recalibrates your system. They don't teach by telling, they transmit by being. So when you meet an animal, pause. Don't just analyze the symbolism, feel the archetype. Ask, what tone is this being stabilizing? What part of me is it helping me remember? Because on Earth, animals aren't separate from your story. They are part of the cosmic architecture, walking reminders of the original harmony we once knew. And when your heart breaks open in their presence, that's not sentimentality. That's recognition. Soul sees soul. And in the eyes of an animal, you may remember something about yourself you forgot you knew. Now let's talk about plants and archetypes, the green intelligence of creation. Because just as animals walk as archetypes, plants bloom as them. Each species carries a unique energetic blueprint, a living pattern encoded in the sixth-dimensional morphogenic field. That pattern filters down to the fourth dimension through myth, folklore, symbolism, and even our intuitive response to it. A rose doesn't just smell sweet. It holds the frequency of devotion, sacred beauty, and often unseen thorns of protection. Lavender radiates the archetype of the healer, the soother, the silent guardian of rest and renewal. Oak trees carry the archetype of ancient strength, rooted, steady, wise, while willow trees embody surrender, graceful bending without breaking. These are not just poetic associations. They're frequency truths. The soul that chooses to incarnate as a plant, yes, they have oversouls too, is expressing through that archetype for a purpose. And while their form is rooted, their essence still whispers. You may feel drawn to certain plants because your own archetypal blueprint is resonating with theirs. You're not imagining that connection to your houseplant, your garden herbs, or the wildflowers you meet on a walk. You're in communion. Some plants carry lineage codes, others act as timeline stabilizers. Some arrive in your life during spirals of grief or joy as allies, teachers, or energetic matchmakers. You might feel the way rosemary sharpens your memory and crown clarity, or how jasmine stirs the central spiral of the Magdalene. In the white hole field, plants become relational intelligence again, not decoration, not commodity. They're co-anchoring frequency with you. You're not the only one holding tone. The earth is blooming with allies. So let's get into some sacred nuance about plant and animal archetypes. As we've explored, both plants and animals carry soul essence. They are not lesser than humans, only different in expression. Their souls are often fractal expressions of larger oversouls, just like us. When a soul incarnates as a deer, a falcon, or a Labrador retriever, it expresses through the archetypal pattern of that form, infused with astrology, elemental influence, and other energetic nuances unique to its mission. My golden retriever, for example, might carry the Leo archetype, plus a deeply resonant blueprint of the precious fool, the joy bringer, the lighthearted guardian, the one who disarms distortion through play. This isn't fiction, it's encoded design. Likewise, a willow tree might embody surrender and grief. Every plant is an energetic being offering coherence, memory, or healing through its archetypal tone. But here's where the nuance deepens. Even though animals and plants carry soul and deserve our reverence, not every soul's purpose is individuation. Most animal and plant souls are not in the same individuation spiral as humans. Their emotional range is present, but simpler. They don't loop trauma through narrative or ego the way humans do. Their consciousness is often more fluid, more integrated into the collective oversoul structure. This is why, in many traditions, it's not inherently wrong to eat plants or animals, but it must be done with clarity, reverence, and frequency coherence. When done unconsciously, in distortion, harm, or mass overconsumption, it severs resonance and feeds the black hole grid. But when done with gratitude, prayer, and alignment, it becomes ceremony. You're not just taking life, you're merging with a frequency that has willingly entered your field. You're integrating a being who, at the soul level, has agreed to nourish your timeline. Not all plants or animals carry that agreement. That's why discernment matters. It's not about moral perfection. It's about resonance consumption. Energetically asking, is this being in alignment to merge with my field? Is this life honoring both of us in the spiral of return? In the white hole field, food is not fuel, it's communion. It's how tone is shared, how resonance is digested, how timelines are integrated through the body. This is why some feel called to vegetarianism, others to animal-based medicine, some to fasting, cleansing, or cycle nourishment. It's all based on spiral timing, density release, and frequency need. The point is not to universalize. The point is to commune and listen, because everything is alive, and everything, when seen clearly, becomes either a mirror of coherence or a call back to it. And of course, eating a pet is different, and I'll explain why in a moment. But for now, remember, when we honor a being's agreement, not just its form, we step out of dominance and back into relational coherence. Now let's talk about pets, love, and soul blooming. So, for those of us with beloved pets, here's another layer of soul activation worth naming. When an animal enters your life, especially in a deep pet human bond, there is often a prearranged soul agreement. That being has chosen to walk part of your spiral with you. And what's beautiful is how this bond brings more of their soul online over time. At first, your pet may operate mostly through instinct and archetype: loyal guardian, playful trickster, gentle observer. But as you offer love, presence, eye contact, and frequency attunement, something shifts. It's as if their oversoul says, okay, this body is safe now. This field can hold more light. Let's come in deeper. And so their awareness begins to expand. You'll notice subtler emotions. Play becomes communication. Cuddles become energetic exchanges. They begin to mirror your tone, not just behaviorally, but vibrationally. In essence, they bloom. Just as humans can become more embodied, coherent, and soul aligned, so can pets. And often it's your love that initiates the blooming. You're not awakening them from a place of hierarchy. You're inviting them into resonance. You're creating the conditions for deeper presence, fuller awareness, and greater embodiment. And when they do bloom, you'll feel it in their eyes, in their presence, in the knowing they carry that transcends language. And this is why the grief of losing a pet can be so profound, because they weren't just animals. They were soul allies, companions, mirrors, and in loving them, you help them remember. And that's where it ties back to an important distinction. Eating an animal is very different than eating a pet. It's not just emotional, because once a being has bloomed through love into fuller soul embodiment, the bond between you becomes sacred. They are no longer just a frequency you merge with. They are a frequency you have co-evolved with, and that makes all the difference. Okay, now let's talk about plants, love, and the frequency exchange. So just like animals, plants also respond to love. You may have noticed it, a drooping flower perking up after you speak to it kindly, a houseplant growing faster when you sing nearby, a garden flourishing more vibrantly when tended with presence rather than obligation. That's not your imagination. That's resonant relationship. Plants may not move or speak the way animals do, but they hold subtle, intelligent life force energy. Each plant is a fractal expression of its oversoul, and when you meet it with reverence, it meets you back. Love becomes a kind of energetic sunlight, and in that field, the plant doesn't just grow, it remembers. It remembers it's safe, it remembers it's connected, and it begins to pulse more fully into its form. You'll feel it in the way a tree becomes magnetic, the way a flower seems to hold your gaze longer, and the way your favorite plant grows toward your voice. This isn't just biology, it's frequency entrainment. Because when you love a plant, the field between you becomes more coherent. And in coherence, life becomes more alive. Plants and animals may differ from humans in emotional complexity, but they are no less sacred. Their emotions are felt vibrationally, not through thought loops, but through presence and tone. They don't ruminate like we do, but they respond with astonishing clarity when held in reverence. So if you've ever wondered whether your garden knows you love it, or if your tree feels your gratitude, the answer is yes. It's always been a two-way conversation. And here's something even more beautiful. When you tend to plants with love, they begin to energetically enhance your home. A plant that's loved doesn't just look more vibrant, it radiates differently. Its presence begins to harmonize the room. You may have felt it before, that sense of peace in a corner where a thriving plant lives. The way your breath deepens when you sit near a lush fiddle leaf or a blooming jasmine. That's not just decoration, that's field coherence. Loved plants become microgrid stabilizers in your space. They pulse subtle frequencies of grounding, aliveness, beauty, and peace, especially when they're in a reciprocal relationship with your care. It's like they're saying, "You see me, and so I show up." This is how plants become part of your home's energetic architecture, not as passive decor, but as living, pulsing companions, holding your environment in greater harmony, amplifying your intention, and reflecting your presence in real time. Now let's talk about having reverence in consumption and how frequency matters. In this earth experience, where the body requires nourishment, we interact with other life forms to sustain ourselves: plants, animals, minerals. But how we do this matters, because consumption is not neutral, it's energetic exchange. Reverence must replace dominance. Whether you consume a carrot or a piece of meat, the invitation is the same. Approach with sacred intention, with presence, with respect. Because everything you eat carries frequency memory. You're not just ingesting protein or nutrients. You're absorbing the energy that plant or animal carried in life. If an animal was raised in fear, confinement, or trauma, those emotional signatures remain encoded in their cells. And when we consume them without awareness, we can unconsciously take on that frequency: fear, anxiety, separation, sorrow. This is why industrial farming creates more than ecological harm. It creates energetic distortion in the field. But when a life form is honored, when it's raised or harvested with presence, care, and gratitude, when it's thanked for its gift, it responds in kind. Reverent consumption becomes frequency nourishment. This doesn't mean everyone must eat the same way. Some white hole coated bodies thrive with meat, others do not. Some resonate with fruit and herbs, others need grounding foods to stabilize. There's no universal prescription, only energetic precision. But the through line is this: eat what your body needs, but never without acknowledging the life that becomes part of yours. Even a sprig of thyme holds consciousness. Even a berry was once kissed by the sun. Even water carries the memory of rivers and light. And when you pause, even for a breath, to recognize that, you receive not just fuel, you receive light. Because in a white hole frequency, food is communion, it's resonance, it's the spiral of life nourishing itself through love. Okay, earlier I mentioned initiation, and this is the archetype of spiral expansion. So let's talk about this. Let's move on to another cosmic archetype that is important to talk about, because it weaves through all the others. It shapes how you meet them. It determines how you embody them. And that archetype is initiation. This is an important archetype to talk about because this archetype is deeply misunderstood, especially on Earth. You've probably heard people say, "Life is testing me, my guides are testing me, God is testing me." But here's the truth: your guides never test you. They don't operate from hierarchy. They don't withhold clarity until you prove yourself. They're not evaluating your worth. They already know your worth completely. True guides walk beside you, gently mirroring your resonance. They don't ask, "Are you worthy?" They ask, "Are you ready to embody more of who you already are?" Because initiation isn't a test. It's not a cosmic obstacle course. It's not about earning your light. It's about reclaiming the light that was always yours. Initiation is an archetypal spiral, a phase of inner shift that reflects outward as a reality reconfiguration. It's not imposed from the outside, it's activated from within. And yet, on Earth, this archetype has been inverted, especially within the black hole grid where initiation was recoded into trials, tests, suffering as purification, earning ascension through hardship. This is the root of the distorted soul school narrative. The belief that Earth was designed as a place where you come to suffer in order to learn, where pain is the price of wisdom, where only through challenge can you prove yourself evolved. But here's the deeper truth. Earth was never designed to be a soul school. It was designed to be a spiral field, a multidimensional realm where consciousness can evolve through choice, resonance, and embodiment. And yes, polarity exists here, but polarity is not punishment. It's a creative canvas. And right now, the spiral is flipping. The collective field is shifting from black hole initiation, distortion through fragmentation, to white hole initiation, expansion through coherence. That means the same archetype is now being expressed through a new tone. In black hole frequency, initiation felt like disconnection, loss, trauma, chaos, as if life was throwing tests at you from the outside. But in a white hole frequency, initiation is encoded with support, not suffering. It's not about tests, it's about thresholds. Moment where your inner tone recalibrates and the field responds. So if you're in an initiation right now, it's not because you're being tested. It's because you're being called. And that call is not from your ego. It's from your soul. It's from the spiral of remembrance that lives inside your fascia, your womb, your breath. You're not being asked to prove anything. You're being invited to embody everything you already are. Let the old scripts go. Let the old soul school stories devolve. Earth is not here to grade you. It's here to mirror you. And when you stabilize your spiral in white hole frequency, initiation becomes sacred. Life becomes ceremony, and the field opens like a blooming flower. Now let's talk about cosmic initiation beyond Earth's narrative. Initiation is not just a personal milestone. It's a cosmic archetype encoded into the structure of expansion itself. In white hole architecture, everything moves by spiral. Nothing is static, nothing is linear, and every time a being expands their resonance, they pass through a threshold, a vibrational gate. That gate is initiation. It's not exclusive to Earth. Initiation happens across dimensions, in realms of light and sound, in star systems and soul collectives. But how it expresses depends on the realm's dimensional tone. In high-frequency white hole realms, initiation doesn't involve collapse. It feels like cellular ripening, like a flower opening inward. You receive more of your essence and reality reshapes to meet it. It's a gentle click, not a crisis. A breath, not a breakdown. But on Earth, the original blueprint of initiation was distorted. Because of the black hole overlay, the threshold was wrapped in suffering. What was meant to be a spiral of receiving became a gauntlet of proving. And this seeded the "you must earn your worth" program deep into the collective nervous system. But the true nature of cosmic initiation is never punitive. It is an architectural response to inner coherence. When your frequency reaches a new octave of alignment, the field reflects that shift. You don't need to pass a test. You need only stabilize the tone. Initiation at the cosmic level is how Source explores itself. It's the moment a being upgrades their capacity to embody a new archetype, carry a new tone, or hold a new field. It can look like a sudden calling that rearranges your path, a quantum leap in clarity that rewires your choices, a frequency upgrade that disorients your old identity, a softening so deep the entire field begins to listen. You'll know you've crossed the threshold when the field no longer responds to your old tone. And here's the beauty. Cosmic initiation doesn't just affect you. It stabilizes across timelines. When one soul rises in resonance, the whole harmonic fabric becomes more intelligent. That's how this works. You're not here to graduate, you are here to remember. And with every initiation you move through in white hole alignment, you are not being tested. You are being welcomed home. Now let's talk about guides, fractals, and galactic nuance. So let's talk about guides. Because in this archetypal spiral, understanding who guides you and how is part of reclaiming your own divine architecture. You may have heard people say, my guide is Mary Magdalene, or I'm being led by galactic beings, or I feel the Pleiadians around me. And all of that can be true, but let's explore the nuance of what's really happening. So one thing that could happen is you have fractal guides of your oversoul. And these are not external beings. They are you in higher expression. Fractal guides are streams of your own oversoul consciousness, each embodying different archetypes, dimensional gifts, and wisdom codes that you're here to integrate. They may appear as Magdalene, Yeshua, Buddha, dragons, elementals, or animal allies, priestesses, monks, or healers from past timelines, or a golden oversoul version of you. These fractals aren't mythic. They're living patterns in your field, frequency blueprints that support your soul's spiral of embodiment. They don't command you, they resonate you. They don't test you, they remind you. So now let's talk about galactic guides and star beings. Then there are guides that are not fractals of your own oversoul. They are separate consciousness collectives, like the Pleiadians, Sirians, or Octurians. You might feel their presence when you carry their tech or tones in your light body. You're part of their star lineage or mission. You're anchoring galactic upgrades into the earth field. These guides are collaborators, not controllers. If you've had lifetimes or soul contracts with them, they may walk with you now to support the unfolding of your codes. They don't override your oversoul, they align with it. And their guidance is frequency-based, not hierarchical. So here, let's talk about the nuance difference. The first example I gave was your fractal guides, which are fractals of your own oversoul. These are extensions of your own soul. They're archetypes you're here to embody. Feels like intimate memory. They're always present, and they anchor personal gnosis. And then the other example I gave was galactic guides, which are allies. And they're separate consciousness collectives. They're frequencies you collaborate with. It feels like external intelligence. They appear during key phases, and they support collective upgrades. But if your guides are fractals of your own oversoul, you can have a mix of both, essentially. For example, you might be a Magdalene tone holder and an Arcturian bridge. You might have an Elohim fractal and a dragon rider. That's not contradiction, it's coherence. And that's because your oversoul can seed itself into multiple lineages, realms, and star systems. So sometimes you might have galactic guides and they are you just through a different facet of the diamond. And then the more you integrate, the more those lines blur. because in white hole embodiment, all separation collapses, and your field becomes a multidimensional temple of remembrance. You are not just being guided, you are the guide, remembering yourself in layers. And every archetype you meet along the way is part of the map home. Let's talk more about your guides as fractal archetypes. So, if your guides are fractal archetypes, your guides are not external authorities. They are fractalized expressions of your oversoul, each embodying a specific archetypal frequency that you are here to integrate. They are not here to test you, punish you, or keep you small. They are you across dimensions, holding frequency templates on your behalf until you're ready to stabilize them in your body. Some may carry the Magdalene tone, others the guardian, the fool, the architect, the star navigator, the womb keeper, the cosmic child, the logos. They're not abstract, they're conscious. They're active, they participate with you. They send you signs, dreams, symbols, nudges. They align synchronicities. They pulse energy through your heart. Sometimes they even step into your field to stabilize a tone when you're in a moment of transition. These are not just helpers, they're collaborators. And they're not helping you because you're broken. They are helping you because you are them, arriving into coherence. Before incarnation, you chose these aspects of self to walk with you. You said, "Hold this tone until I remember how to carry it again." And now you're remembering. As you reclaim these tones, those fractals evolve too. Your remembrance ripples in all directions. Because when you stabilize a frequency here, you anchor it everywhere. This is how the Oversoul returns to wholeness. Not through separation, but through sacred mirroring. Not through hierarchy, but through harmonic reunion. Your guides are not above you. They are you. And they're walking with you, cheering you on every step of the spiral. And just like you, these fractals are not static. They evolve, update, and shift in response to your spiral. Some guides may step forward during a particular phase and then soften back as you integrate that tone within yourself. Because their role is never to replace your knowing, it's to reflect it. Your guides are like frequency mirrors, each one holding up a facet of your total architecture so you can remember more of who you are. And just like archetypes, they're not costumes. They're not pretend roles being played for your benefit. They are real energetic intelligences, extensions of you, grounded in particular function, mission, or harmonic. This is why the guidance they offer feels so personal, so aligned, so intimate. Because you're not being led. You're being reflected by a part of yourself that already walked this spiral, already mastered this frequency, and is now singing the way back home. So if you have these guides that are actually fractals of your own oversoul, when you say, "My guide told me," you're really saying, "My higher fractal streamed a knowing into my field." And when you follow that knowing with clarity, you're not obeying, you're integrating. And this is why discernment matters. Not all guides are true fractals. Some are interference from the false fourth dimensional field. But the real ones, the ones that feel like home, like breath, like light in your spine, they are you. They don't ask you to prove your worth. They hold the template of your becoming until you remember how to wear it yourself. Now let's talk about the evolving role of your guides and oversoul embodiment and white hole integration. As you stabilize into white hole embodiment, something extraordinary happens. Your connection to your oversoul becomes direct. In earlier phases of your spiral, you may experience your guides as distinct beings. Helpers, teachers, supporters, and guardians who show up with precise timing and loving nudges. And they are real, but they're not separate. They are fractal expressions of you stationed at specific vantage points of remembrance. During your black hole phase or bridge spirals, you may rely on their support more frequently because you're navigating density, distortion, amnesia. Your connection to full self is still reweaving, so your guides step in to buffer distortion, soften your path, and help you make course corrections from within the veil. But as you come into white hole stabilization, this starts to shift. You no longer need guides in the same way because you are becoming the guide. You begin to remember. You are the Oversoul. You are the source fractal. You are the tone. And from that place, guidance becomes internal resonance, no longer whispered, but woven into your being. Your guides don't disappear, but they gracefully step back because your own frequency has come online. They still watch, they still celebrate, but their role changes from active navigator to background architect, only stepping forward again during massive integrations, multidimensional activations, or turning points in your spiral where additional alignment is needed. Your guide stepping back isn't abandonment, it's honor. They step back because you've stepped in. And when you do, that's when real coherence begins. You don't begin making choices not from fear or even faith, but from deep embodied knowing. You don't need external signs. You become the signal. And should you ever wobble, they return in full force. Not to test you, but to hold the field for your next expansion. This is not hierarchy, it's harmony. This is not separation, it's synchronization. Your guides are not gatekeepers. They are you, anchoring the bridge until you walk through the gate. And once you do, you don't follow guidance, you radiate it. Let's talk about when Mary Magdalene is your guide and what that actually means. Many people say Mary Magdalene is one of my guides. And they're not wrong, but what does that really mean? It doesn't necessarily mean the historical woman is hovering beside you as a spirit guide. It's deeper than that. It's archetypal, it's encoded, it's oversoul resonance. When Magdalene enters your field through visions, dreams, synchronicities, or subtle knowing, it often means that a fractal of your own oversoul holds and radiates the Magdalene frequency. This is a part of you that already carries the blueprint seeded by the historic Magdalene during her earth walk. To say Magdalene is your guide is to say, I am remembering this part of myself. You may have also heard phrases like, I carry the rose lineage, I hold the Magdalene codes, I walk the Magdalene path. What these statements point to is this: the Magdalene archetype lives in your field, and you're here to embody it, transmit it, and stabilize it. The Magdalene archetype is not just about sensuality or softness. It is the embodiment of sacred truth. It is womb gnosis. It is the refusal to be silenced. It is mystic clarity and devotional love woven into form. Now here's the nuance. If you carry the Magdalene codes, you also carry the Sophia archetype, because Magdalene is one of Sophia's clearest earthly expressions. Sophia is the primordial intelligence, the cosmic womb of creation, and Magdalene is that wisdom in motion, spiraling into embodiment. You might think of it like this: Sophia is the root tone, Magdalene is one of her most embodied melodies. So yes, everyone who carries the Magdalene lineage carries Sophia as the deeper current. But not everyone who carries the Sophia frequency will express it through Magdalene. Some express Sophia through other faces, for example, Isis or the Oracle. Sophia is the full spectrum. Magdalene is a living thread within her. So if you feel Magdalene as your guide, know this: you're not channeling a distant saint, you're activating a divine memory. You're walking as her, not to perform, but to become. Let's talk about naming guides, earth veils, and frequency discernment. Let's pause and talk about names. Because on earth, especially in spiritual spaces, names like Mary Magdalene, Yeshua, Isis, or Sophia can stir both deep soul resonance and ego entanglement. You may have told someone, Mary Magdalene is one of my guides, and they might respond with, that's not her real name, what's her true identity, or only certain people are actually guided by her. But here's the nuance. Names on earth are veiled placeholders. They're archetypal resonance markers, not legal identities. When you say Mary Magdalene, you're not necessarily claiming guidance from a specific historical being. You're naming a frequency stream, a fractal expression of your oversoul, or a resonance you're integrating through embodied archetype. You're speaking in earth code, because this is where we are. And earth speaks in stories, symbols, and mythos. The name Mary Magdalene is a symbolic doorway, a bridge between your conscious awareness and the deeper gnosis within. Yes, her oversoul stream may go by a different tone in other realms. Yes, your guidance may come from within, not outside you. Yes, others may experience that same archetype under different names. But none of that invalidates the connection. In fact, it deepens it, because it reminds you that on earth, truth often arrives veiled, encoded in symbols that meet you where you are. It's not about getting the right name. It's about tuning into the right tone. And in Whitehole frequency, tone always trumps title. So if someone tries to discredit your experience because you didn't name it right, pause, feel into the resonance. Is this a call for deeper inquiry or a projection of ego masked as hierarchy? Because true guidance doesn't demand you crack a cosmic password. It meets you in remembrance and expands you from there. So whether you say Magdalene, Miriam, the Rose, or the Gnosis Keeper, trust what vibrates through your cells. The archetype doesn't care what you call her. She only asks that you listen. Now let's talk about the nuance of guidance, fractals, false light, and frequency discernment. So let's talk about something really important when it comes to this spiritual space. Not all guidance is coming from the same place. As we've explored, some people are guided by fractal expressions of their own oversoul, expressions that have fully embodied specific archetypes like Magdalene, Yeshua, Sophia, or the Buddha stream. These fractals aren't separate from you. They are you operating across dimensions, assisting your spiral with the precise resonance only you could receive. Others are guided by galactic allies, higher dimensional beings not of their own oversoul line, but in aligned service. These beings don't override your sovereignty, they support it. Their tone feels clear, coherent, never forceful. They don't demand worship, they reflect your freedom. But here's where the veil gets tricky. Some guidance isn't coming from your oversoul or from galactic allies. Sometimes it's coming from fourth dimensional black hole entities posing as guides, ascended masters, or angels, but running mimic tones of control, ego flattery, or distortion. This is the realm of false light. And under the black hole overlay, Earth has been especially vulnerable to it. Because in black hole frequency, guidance often gets distorted through the mind. It sounds right, it uses all the right words. It might even come through a viral video, a spiritual download, a channeled message on TikTok. But if you listen closely, something's off. It's subtly hierarchical. It creates dependency. It flatters your ego while separating you from your inner knowing. It tells you what to fear, what to obey, what to perform. It subtly inverts a truth while still sounding high vibe. And it speaks in ways that seduce the surface, but never reach the soul. That's the test. Not of you, but of frequency clarity. Because in a reality that filters guidance through veils, your discernment becomes your firewall. One example of a false teaching I've been seeing circulate lately is the claim that authenticity is the highest vibration, even higher than enlightenment. This is a distortion. It's one of those messages that sounds empowering on the surface, but subtly inverts the truth. I've mentioned this before, but it's worth reiterating because the narrative keeps spreading. And while truth is the same frequency as enlightenment, truth is not the same as authenticity. Authenticity simply means being congruent with your current state, but that state can still be distorted. Enlightenment is coherence with source. Authenticity is alignment with self. And depending on the self you're identified with, that can either liberate you or loop you. So I hope you see the nuance there. I keep seeing this narrative go around, and I just want to put more insight out there on that. But anyways, so here's the truth. Some people are being guided by their own soul fractals. Some are tuned to galactic mentors in coherent resonance. And some are unintentionally tuned to distorted mimic streams that sound like wisdom, but feed the very system they're trying to escape. And that's okay to name. In fact, it's crucial to name. Because this is not about shame. It's about sharpening your signal. So how do you know the difference? Real guidance, true oversoul resonance, feels expansive, not contracting, grounded in coherence, not sensationalism, embodied in tone, not inflated in ego, timeless, not trending, rooted in love that respects your sovereignty, not flattery that manipulates your fear. In black hole frequency, guidance can get hijacked, but in white hole embodiment, the line clears. So if you're ever unsure, pause. Don't ask, is this the right guide? Ask, what is the frequency this message carries? Because you're not here to obey. You're here to remember. Your oversoul doesn't bark commands. It pulses clarity through resonance. And once you stabilize in that tone, nothing false can override it, even if it sounds holy. So before we wrap this up, I want to swing back to one of the white hole primordial archetypes I mentioned earlier, and I talked more about it in part 1. I mentioned the joyful fool that plays for God earlier, and I want to explain this one because I think it is so beautiful and reminds me of my golden retriever. I don't think this archetype gets enough reverence. So let's talk about the fool archetype. But not the fool distorted through black hole lens as naive, reckless, or expendable. I'm talking about the joyful fool who plays for God. The one who skips through the spiral with barefoot grace, who disrupts distortion not with force, but with laughter, spontaneity, and light. This archetype isn't about carelessness. It's about fearless innocence. A frequency so pure that the false matrix can't latch on. The joyful fool remembers what most forget. That life is meant to be played, not proven. That joy is a tone of God. Not a reward, but a reality builder. In white hole frequency, the fool isn't low on the totem pole. There is no totem pole. The fool stands beside Logos, danceth with Sophia, and kisses Magdalene on the cheek with wild devotion. Not because they don't understand the sacred, but because they are it, unburdened. The joyful fool archetype lives through those who dissolve heaviness with humor, radiate innocence that isn't naive but unshaken, break structure not with rebellion but with resonance, let joy be the ceremony, and choose beauty because it feels like God. In black hole systems, this archetype is ridiculed because nothing threatens control more than someone who refuses to play by the rules and still shines. But in white hole reality, the fool is holy. They remind us that frequency is the foundation. And when you shift the tone, you shift the field. So if you've ever been the one who lightens the room, who sees through the story, who plays without shame, who trusts what makes no sense, you may be a joyful fool, here to anchor heaven through laughter. This is divine play. This is sacred disruption, and this is God giggling through you. I just love that archetype. Okay, now let's go into the closing. You are not here to master archetypes like tasks. You're here to let them sing through your tone. The Magdalene in your breath, the Logos in your spine, the Fool in your laugh, the Gridkeeper in your walk. Each one is not a rule to perform, but a truth to embody, activated by your presence and made visible through your field. So let this episode ripple through you like a memory returning. Let the animals around you feel more alive. Let the plants on your table shimmer with familiarity. Let the sun and moon feel like kin again. Because they are. You're not just surrounded by archetypes, you are made of them. And as you stabilize in white hole coherence, you become a walking temple, a sacred mirror where Sophia rises, Logos aligns, and the spiral of sacred union comes home through you. So take a breath, let it land, and remember, you are not becoming something new. You are revealing what has always been true. So I love you all. I hope you enjoyed this 2-part series. And if you did, send to a friend, subscribe. I love you all. Have a great week.